Thanks for joining us here at the Gospel Vault for part 2 of When the Right Turns on Itself. In our first installment, we posed the question as the topic for part 2. What does the Bible teach about America's stance on Israel? Our founding fathers recognized the significance of Israel as it pertains to the religion of Christianity. Listen to the following documented evidence of this position which George Washington held. This understanding of the Bible, which other founders such as John Adams and Thomas Jefferson also had, has shaped foreign policy concerning the Middle East from America's inception. Washington's famous letter to the Hebrew congregation in Newport, Rhode Island in 1790. In it he wrote, "May the children of the stock of Abraham who dwell in this land continue to merit and enjoy the good will of the other inhabitants, while everyone shall sit in safety under his own vine and fig tree, and there shall be none to make him afraid." George Washington, August 18, 1790. That final phrase, "under his own vine and fig tree," comes from Micah 4:4, a prophetic passage describing Israel's millennial peace in their land. Washington used it symbolically to bless Jewish citizens in America, but the biblical allusion clearly conveys his respect for the Jewish hope of restoration. We are titling this segment, "The Hidden Threat Within the Conservative Movement." In the last couple of years, a troubling pattern has begun to emerge within certain circles of the Christian right. A subtle but unmistakable drift toward rhetoric that echoes the anti-Semitic undertones of the past. Voices like Darryl Cooper and Nick Fuentes, cloaking their views in pseudo-Christian language, have found eager audiences among young conservative men disillusioned by cultural decay and political hypocrisy. In part 1, we also examined comments from Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, Megyn Kelly, Mark Levin, and Ben Shapiro concerning Carlson giving an openly anti-Semitic podcaster/influencer like Fuentes a platform to spew his hateful rhetoric. Today, we are going to look at some of the major ramifications that this reckless journalism being practiced by Tucker Carlson can have on the political landscape here in America. We are going to look at some recent commentary by Victor Davis Hanson of the Daily Signal.
There's been a lot of controversy recently about anti-Semitism. This time, it's not the well-known left-wing anti-Semitism. It's on the right. It came to the fore when Tucker Carlson had an interview with the known anti-Semite and at one time pro-Nazi Nick Fuentes.
What makes their influence so dangerous is not only their hostility toward Jews, but their claim that such hostility is somehow righteous, that it aligns with God's purposes. Now, a similar distortion is reemerging, not from atheistic corners, but from individuals claiming to reclaim Christianity for the political right. By merging nationalist zeal with theological error, they risk creating a new generation of zealots who believe they are doing God's work by turning against the Jewish people. This movement is more than just misguided theology, it's a potential political weapon.
Fuentes, very young man, never written much. He's not an activist with anywhere the audience of Charlie Kirk, but he's well known, he's glib, and Tucker had him on.
The radical left, long adept at exploiting division, could hardly design a better strategy to fracture the Republican base. The dangerous aspect of this is the fact that influential media figures, such as Tucker Carlson, have platformed these individuals rather than dismissing them for the radicals that they are. By not confronting their hateful ideology and exposing it for what it is, Tucker Carlson is in essence aiding and abetting the enemy within the Republican Party.
That record is well documented. Tucker chose, nevertheless, to interview him. Now, the problem was that this was not in isolation. He had the World War II revisionist Darryl Cooper. He wasn't a historian. Tucker said he was the most prominent historian writing today in America. That was not true. He's never written an article or a book about World War II. But he is known for suggesting that a cabal in the United States, and you know who that is, had unduly influenced the Roosevelt administration to ally with Russia over either keeping neutral or allying, as a later guest, David Cullum suggested, allying with Adolf Hitler and the Nazis. Many of the things that Cooper said, as I have addressed in writing and in podcasts, were demonstrably untrue. So there was a backstory there.
Couple that with the unfair interview that he conducted with one of the staunchest defenders of the nation of Israel, as it pertains to U.S. foreign policy, Ted Cruz, and you wonder what side he is on.
You said that the single criterion for making decisions about America's foreign policy is America's national interest.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah. Which is also America first. That's another way of putting that as well.
I think it's the definition of it.
Yeah. I came into Congress 13 years ago with the stated intention of being the leading defender of Israel in the United States Senate.
Great.
And I've worked every day to do that. By the way, Tucker, it's a very weird thing. The obsession with Israel, when we're talking about foreign countries,
it's hardly an obsession.
You're not talking about Chinese, you're not talking about Japanese, you're not talking about the Brits, you're not talking about the French. The question, what about the Jews?
His actions lean more towards support of a leftist agenda than they do with the MAGA movement.
I've never taken money from the Israel lobby. Have you?
Taken money from the Israel...
From AIPAC.
So AIPAC raises a lot of money for me, but it's actually a misnomer because the people who raise money are individuals. Right. So it's not the PAC itself, but they're individual members who believe in the American-Israeli friendship and relationship.
Is AIPAC a foreign lobby?
No, it's an American lobby. It's the AIPAC stands for the America-Israeli Political Action Committee.
What does it lobby for? You said that the single criterion for making decisions about America's foreign policy is America's national interest.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah. Which is also America first. That's another way of putting that as well. I think
it's the definition of it. Yeah. I don't see a lawmaker's job as defending the interests of a foreign government, period. Okay. Any government, including the ones that my ancestors come from.
In recent months, a surprising and deeply concerning trend has emerged among segments of the conservative movement, a growing skepticism, even hostility, toward the State of Israel. The latest example came when Tucker Carlson openly criticized Senator Ted Cruz for his unwavering support of Israel as a strategic ally in the Middle East. Carlson questioned why American conservatives should stand so firmly with Israel, implying that such loyalty serves foreign interests rather than America's own. That argument, at first glance, may sound like a call for America First prudence, but on closer inspection, it echoes almost verbatim the rhetoric of the political left. The same narrative that paints Israel as the aggressor and Iran or Hamas as the victims.
Everybody says, these people on the Tucker program saying Jewish state, it's a Jewish state. What you think that the 50-plus nations surrounding them are, they're Islamic states. But the difference is they're autocratic and unfree. Israel is a liberal society. It's our best friend. We would not have been able to take out the Iranian nuclear threat to the West. And by the way, it wasn't just Israel's idea. The Europeans were terrified of it. We were too. If the IDF's Air Force had not first neutralized the air defenses of Iran.
This subtle shift in tone from one of the right's most influential voices reveals a dangerous drift, one that threatens to blur the moral and strategic lines that once united conservatives on matters of foreign policy and faith. Victor Davis Hanson, a respected historian and military analyst, has made the opposite case, and his reasoning is hard to ignore. Hanson points out that Israel has been indispensable to U.S. security interests in the region. He cites specific examples, including Israel's covert assistance in neutralizing Iranian air defenses, enabling U.S. and allied operations to target the Iranian nuclear threat.
So the alliance with Israel is not anti-U.S. interest, it's in our interest. Whether you're idealistic, and you should be, that we support fellow free nations that have constitutional government and treat their citizens equitably and fairly and protect their civil rights, or you believe strategically that we have a small number of very important allies that are muscular, strong, and they have the similar interests as we do, both in Europe, Japan, South Korea, and that small number of allied nations, Israel is preeminent.
In other words, Israel does not drain American resources. It strengthens America's defense posture by providing real-time intelligence, advanced technology, and a democratic foothold in a region dominated by tyranny. For Carlson to overlook or dismiss these realities is either an act of willful ignorance or something more troubling, an alignment, intentional or not, with the left's anti-Israel narrative. That narrative has already taken root in progressive circles, where Israel is recast as an imperial oppressor and Islamist regimes are framed as resistance movements. When conservative influencers begin echoing that same storyline, even under the banner of nationalism, it hands the radical left exactly what it wants: a divided Republican Party, and an eroded moral consensus on one of Scripture's clearest principles, God's enduring covenant with the descendants of Abraham. At stake is more than policy. If America, the world's last major defender of both Israel's existence and biblical truth, turns its back on that alliance, the repercussions will be spiritual as well as geopolitical. The weakening of U.S.-Israel ties would embolden Iran, destabilize the region, and fulfill precisely what the prophets foretold: that in the last days, all nations would turn against Jerusalem. The conservative movement must decide whether it will stand with truth, history, and scripture, or be seduced by rhetoric that masquerades as patriotism but leads to compromise. As we've seen, the shifting tone among some conservatives toward Israel is more than a political trend. It's part of a larger spiritual battle over truth, loyalty, and discernment. When voices on the right begin echoing the left's narrative, portraying Israel as the villain and Iran or Hamas as misunderstood victims, it's a sign that the ideological lines are blurring. It's also a warning that deception doesn't always come from the direction we expect. History reminds us that antisemitic rhetoric cloaked in religious or moral justification has appeared before, most horrifically in Nazi Germany. In our next installment, Part 3, we'll trace how Adolf Hitler sought to justify the Holocaust by appealing to the long-standing anti-Semitic precedent set by the medieval Catholic Church, and how that same twisted logic is resurfacing today under new names and movements. We'll explore how false religion, political opportunism, and theological compromise combine to create one of history's darkest chapters, and why understanding that pattern is vital to discerning what's happening now in the modern church and conservative politics. If you found this analysis helpful, subscribe to the Gospel Vault and check out our Faith versus Indoctrination playlist for deeper dives into the ideological and spiritual battles shaping our time. Don't forget to like, share, and turn on notifications so you won't miss Part 3, Hitler's Theology of Hate: How False Religion Justified Genocide.